So when we talk about these two different types of the ethical discipline, uncommon and uncommon, the main point we have to understand is during the common ethical discipline, that is individual liberation's vow, there are certain precepts which is mainly associated with the body and speech. So during this, the observance, the person or the individual need to focus mainly on restraining the activities or the behavior of their body and speech, not on the mind. So this, the physical and the verbal ethics is observed only for oneself, individual liberation, not for others. When those people or the practitioners who really focuses on individual liberation vow means that they have some kind of the self-centered attitude. They want to achieve their own spiritual attainment for sake of their happiness and bliss, not for others. Unlike the individual liberation's vow, the Bodhisattva's vow, when it comes to the Bodhisattva's vow, we need to focus on all of the three activities of our body, speech, and mind, and most importantly, on the mental attitude, with the aim of helping other sentient beings. The way how Bodhisattvas observe or practice Bodhisattva's vow is 100% for the sake of others. There is no any sense of selfishness or the self-centered attitude. So Bodhisattvas, whatever Bodhisattvas did, all these are for or to benefit other sentient beings. So when we talk about the Bodhisattva's vow, they are the numerals, the precept Bodhisattva need to uphold, such as the 18 root transgressions or the downfalls, and 46 punishments or the shortcomings. So all of these kind of the precepts is closely related with the mental attitude. All of these need to be observed based on our mind, not on physical and the mental or the verbal. Just so if you hold the Bodhisattva's vow and do not remain non-attached to external and internal sense pleasures, all your vows will naturally deteriorate as you are unable to benefit even yourself. Needless to say, you are personally incapable of benefiting others in any way. In the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, it is said, as desire obstructs rebirth in abode of Brahma, it goes without saying it will obstruct attaining excellent, perfect enlightenment. it says that if you hold the Bodhisattva's vow, once you take Bodhisattva's vow, then all your vows do not remain non-attached to external and internal sense pleasures. So once we have took the Bodhisattva's vow, the main point we need to focus on is we have to not attach to the external and internal things.
대인도 전주선배 동부 휴세베지라 뭐주 관리네 심지게 된셔마도 랑도게 섬은 만져버지 니와도 제고래서 대마셔베나 수렴량도 수렴량배나 아시안데 지야지도 파샤다 랑도 양부지 용마리 전에 산지게 юм지도 롱장.
And also whatever bodhisattvas do, this should be for the sake of others. There is no an instance of selfishness. If Bodhisattva did something out of the self-centered attitude, then this kind of the activity will deteriorate his or her ethics or ethical discipline or vows. So thereby here in Perfection of Wisdom Sutra also say that Bodhisattva are always not doing all those things based on the self-centered attitude.
와야 대인도 영저 당기 대응을 소다가 좀 투문을 소다가 좀 송송 소다 좀 버지 냥배는 양 내송 제주요다 샤지스베 좀 버지는다 아장장래 가에서나 샤지스베 좀 버당기 니바당 소다가 좀 버당기 니바제나 샤지스베 좀 버당기 니바데 제주 동주기 채워요래 대인도 채워들라 되는 내송 제임바 시험을 봐.
So when we talk about the common, the ethical discipline, that is this individual liberation vow, in the text it is said that if one breaks or lose or deteriorate the individual liberation vow, as the result, one will born in one of the three lower realms. So that is a huge, the negative consequence of breaking or not observing the individual liberation vow, probably just as we promised before our spiritual master or the Lama. If these are such kind of such strong or the serious negative consequence for breaking the individual liberation vow, then of course the negative result of not observing the Bodhisattva's vow is 100 times bigger than breaking the individual liberation's vow.
아야 대체 다저데 장주스음세데 장주스베도 마세데 주 심숭야데 심야고시 송토변은 장주스베도 마다 게 이와세데 배지 메용하래 다 소다도 바이나 롱아니 송구요 다 르기 저름다 가비 좀 송구로 대인데 근지 대제 송칼로 차와 쉬죠래 다 소다도 바데 송레하요 가에서는 르기 저름 마기 저름 송야데로 다 장주스베도 바데 심숭인데 심세데 먼저 세라고 도마메반네 녀모로 검대도 고배 중요하대 빼갈라가 그러고 대인도 장주스베도 무슨 가보래.
In the case of practicing or observing these two different vows, individual liberation vow and the Bodhisattva's vow, so individual liberation vow is much more easier for us to observe or uphold because this is 100% related with our physical and the mental activities, not on the mind. When it comes to the Bodhisattva's vow, everything needs to be done based through our mind. So we have to watch our mind, we have to do introspect, or we have to control and tame our mind when it comes to the Bodhisattva's vow. So that's why to controlling or subduing our mind is much more difficult than controlling the physical and the verbal activities. Why? Because our mind is accustomed to go under the control of delusions or the negative minds from the beginningless lifetimes. So we have a very strong habit of being or to be slave of the delusions or the afflictions. That's why it's deeply rooted in our mental continuum. So that's why it's quite difficult to separate or to not to go or not to listen the delusions or the afflictive emotions.
대인의 주의집에 대하여 샤포라 페베컵라 드레송으로 주요래. 소다 넘바다 교면도서. 다 장시스베 넘바다 숭야를 때지 갖고도 전에 다디 흉망보지 되고시 뭐 흉망보지 세비로 주도. 대인의 소다 넘바데 레라고 쉬지. 네 니바 고마뉴스. 다 장시스베 넘바기 대대제 갈래 갖고도 송으로 주도.
And when the Odisha, when he traveled to Tibet, they mentioned that even in Tibet, the people people do not face much problem to observe or uphold the individual liberation vow. So it is quite easier. When it comes to the Bodhisattva's vow, it's really difficult to observe. That's why he focused on teaching different forms of the teaching instructions based on the scriptures or the texts of the great vehicles tradition.
아야, 다 대체 되는 마ችን 다 보도에 송지도 대마 차자마 로샤고. 보도에 dombe 추진에 배는 듬부 요구 담지 밀라고 가주인 평난 조샤는 되어도 오고기스 농가기 미게와 듬부던 저거 심지 가주인배 농가라라원데 징계 담지 심인배 심 주로와 송원 nen데 제송 nen데 기송.
So regarding this ethical discipline, the great Pothowa said, for example, the vows of ethical discipline are akin to all the movements of a pistol performed by a person's hand. A pistol moves when a person's hand spins it and stays put when it is put down. Similarly, the non-virtue of our body and speech is akin to a pistol whose performance is controlled by our mind. The body and speech lack freedom, and the mind is the author of all. So vigilantly safeguard the workings of our mind.
아야, 대인들다 계시보도 고랑양 장시심 기인의 돈바송 되니 고랑기 로마스 양티나시 인상다 랍샤디 가르송라나 배낭 알아서 샘다 롱아니나네 샘데 개번하시리스다 롱아니데 가르체다 마셔서 약부 용도 모니서야 돼 샘나 잘해버렸어 배 가르샤라는 아주 듬부 요구시스다 듬부서 등상 배자변은 알아서 그외면 사야게다 맨 조석이 조대지로 맨 조야게 달라고 청해지도 오 대단자와 다 대라베 최주 파유 샤샤데 달라베 소요로 배대나 인샤는 아주 롱하게 자주 가리네 샘기 교화당기요 근데 인상 당한주 샘이하고지 다고 잡다 근데 롱하게 샤와디 야고지 용주 다 취샤 순거도달라.
So in this the passage, the great Pothowa and all of his three disciples, we know that the Pothowa and his three disciples, all of them become the truly the great practitioner of the bodhicitta. So the Pothowa advised his three disciples by saying that the mind is the controller. Mind is like a king and the body and speech is like a subject. So the activities of the subjects can control by the king. Similarly, the activities of our body and speech can control by our mind. So mind is become supreme. So so mind is the paramount. Mind is the supreme, like a king. So that's why we need to watch, or we need to safeguard the way how we are doing mentally. So to explain this, he gives the example of a pistol. So pistol is a kind of the small vessel in which we use to crush the pills or the medicines. So this is controlled by our hand. Similarly, our body and speech are also controlled by the mind.
대인들 아주 소다를 장섬 이게기 돈벌이야. 다 저요 대sem을 잘해야들. 장주스백이 갑다라 섬을 담만저는 동화래지리. 소다 갑라 섬 담만저 재면 동화래다 가마래 제네야. 섬야고 마송매나 다 롱하게 챔다 계획이 자와들이 중요하게 연가 요버리 니가로 심송가데 개 개점을 심을 따야 돼.
In briefly, in both during these two different vows, individual liberation vow and bodhisattva's vow, to safeguard the workings of our mind is extremely important. So even if those practitioners who are observing the individual liberation vow, their main goal is to shape or to control the activities of the body and speech, but if they do not safeguard their mental attitude, then there is a risk of engaging in physical and verbal activities which are destructive and unbeneficial.
와야 되지. 나한테 시계 뒤에서 페이지 쭉쭉 써 있어요. 시계 뒤 라바송은 되버려 되는데 숨숨자 숨도 송은 마시나 라바송은 용 메뉴 hier 따라서.
And then again, as it is said, I think, I'm not sure, maybe this is from the Bodhisattva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. So it says that those who wish to safeguard their trainings are to vigilantly guard their minds. If you do not guard your mind, you will not be able to safeguard your trainings.
대인들 산지에게 송나라야 심되어는 대화진 세조로 심되는 대화진들이 세조로 어다도 대공도사로 산지에게 도대 되래 심되는 대화진 심마도는 동해용 세조로 어데다 산지에게 도대 공대 공도서 도대래.
So this the verse mainly comes from came based on the sutra. So in one of the sutra it said that if we can tame our mind, pacify our mind, we will be able to experience happiness. So controlling or taming or pacification of our mind is the source of happiness.
와야 다대인시에게 데레다 니주되면 소다당 장주스베 돈바윤에 갑라 가르치고래 가르순고래 순당고디제 근데 디슈걸라 니바데 저점 니바데 개와치되고 저점에서 되가라다 장주스베 럽종시당 고수요래 니바 개와치되는 장주스베 돈베 저점 양다고 랑베 와도 장주신부 실 르당하게 개와사고 강진야로 어디다 담제네 너드는 개와치되고 저점이 있어.
And this kind of the ethics or the ethical discipline of restraining from the transgression means that if we observe this kind of ethics or discipline, we are trying to avoid to commit any kind of the negative actions from our body, speech, and mind. So this is taught in order to help the sentient beings to not to face negative consequences as a result of their own negative actions. If we can avoid the negative actions, we will not accumulate negative force. Thereby, we will not have to experience the negative result of one's own action. So this is related with, this kind of the ethical discipline is related with the avoiding the negative actions. The second one is the ethical discipline of amassing the virtue. So accumulation of the virtue. So once we have accumulated certain amount of the virtues, it is not enough. We have to increase the quantity of the accumulation of merit and wisdom until we be able to reach at the state of the complete enlightenment. So ethical discipline of amassing virtue is also closely related with the Bodhisattva's enlightened activities. In the text it says that the ethical discipline of amassing the virtue is, in summary, the undertaking of any or all of those activities deemed appropriate for the accumulation of the virtues of body, speech, for the sake of attaining total enlightenment when one is correctly maintaining the discipline of the Bodhisattva's vow.
와야 대인들다 가산 시간 난신체네 장주쌤 줄라지 장주쌤 돈바송 돈바송 전에는 자와를 주고요래 자와를 주세기 계획 자와 강행바디 다 개와시도 그 줄이나라 다 뒤에는 되려 다 잠배는 월마 창세기 힘이 장로.
So this ethical discipline of amassing, here amassing means to increase, to accumulate. So this comes when someone could cultivate the bodhicitta. So after cultivation of the bodhicitta, one would take bodhisattva's vow. So after taking bodhisattva's vow, so to take bodhisattva's vows means to promise or to determine to engage in only positive activities to benefit all other sentient beings. So once we took the bodhisattva's vow, then that person or the bodhisattva naturally or willingly engage in a lot of the beneficial activities. So that is through that kind of the activities one can increase the amount of the positive accumulations.
대인도 아주 장주선바 세대다 냠랭 간제 지구래 장주선배 기고라 냠랭 시단 숨샤와 다지게 땡주 나라 배 땡주스의 가방 산지 준비되게 송방인바 대기 진족 속에 송샤지 나라 다지 부위 다쇼자데 산지 전박에 제베 도대진 작도 도대진게 저와데 다다 바보통에 제베 장주선배사 장사 세대 작요래.
So, if we, when we learn or study about the Bodhisattva's the qualities or the Bodhisattva's enlightened activities, so there are a lot of the commentaries or the texts composed by the Buddha's follower, including Nagarjuna and so forth. So many of the great Buddhist masters from India, Tibet, and so forth have composed a lot of the texts, commentary or text on Buddha's own verse or the sutras. So one of the most renowned or the comprehensive the commentary on the Bodhicitta is become the Maitreya Buddha's composition known as the ornament of the Mahayana Sutra. And this again is also explained by Asanga by composing a text called the Bodhisattva's Ground.
다 장주선에서 장사세의 제일라테네 계세 단다 시와라 준주세다 제일 중요로 봐. 저디 당부대 장사샤되요래.
After Arya Asanga's text called the Bodhisattva's Ground, the great Shantideva comes and also authored his renowned text, famous text called the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life.
대인도 먼저 lokjudan 대学대 lokjude 야보지 고세회는 슝도서 고름도서 시야당 고아차야를 빼편도도 고름 lokju도서 마셔배는 바카도 고름 락베 먼주저 제배는 시외제 내가도 뭐 용면도 lokjudan 저기 다터배는 고아차야라 양용도.
So when we are studying the Buddhist, the philosophy or the Buddhist teaching, it is quite important to also study those great history or the chronological event of those great Buddhist masters. So if we know or if we gain some knowledge about those great ancient Buddhist masters, what kinds of texts they have composed and what they did, then this can help us to understand better their words or the teachings.
아야, 다들 장세 롱망고 쉬우지 님도 말로 쉬우로 장사래 장시스메 수정라 땡신 내서 퇴바다 선바다 고마다 지부 가와로 선바지도 라마라 그대다 름저 제바다 내발라 름저 당 내에 제바다 레고 진신 신지 연대 저보다 신지 선나라 이란시 내발라 서바다 겨와 장주도 뭐신 뭐는 대바다 군주시지 주리 잠바다 바여 내바다 라바 젠바다 시시 송와다 홍보 고송신 세지 최시바다 남지 차도의 점멸을 내와 내줘를 좀 받아 기부 담바다 외신이라 땜바다 랑게 처벌라다니 차hin사 동화다 대답을 저는 줘바다 송화다 넘바 표가 제바니 개와 추도의 추점도 시벌 차고 시송스.
So and then if you see here in page number 108, this one, the scriptural source or the citation from the Bodhisattva's Ground. So, as I mentioned, the Bodhisattva's ground is a name of a text composed by Arya Asanga. So, in this, it says that rely on and abide in the ethical discipline of Bodhisattva. In joyous solitude, earnestly apply yourself to listening, reflection, and meditation. Honor and serve spiritual masters. Serve and nurse the ill. Give skillfully and proclaim the good qualities of others. Rejoice in the merit of others and endure contamination. Dedicate your virtue to enlightenment and make supplications. Make offerings to the three jewels and diligently apply yourself. Remain conscientious and maintain the trainings with the mindful and the introspection. Safeguard the sense doors and be moderate in food. Do not sleep in the first part or the last part of the night. Endeavor in your practice. Rely on holy beings and spiritual guides. Having understood your own mistakes, confess and give them up. One is to understand that ethical discipline of amassing virtue is achieving, preserving, and increasing practices such as these. So, if I summarize the content or the meaning of this passage from the Bodhisattva's ground, then this is talking after cultivating the bodhicitta and taking the Bodhisattva's vow. So after we become the Bodhisattva, then it pointed out the importance of three processes of study, the listening, reflection, and the meditation. And then also, it is also important to serve our spiritual teachers and to help the patient or other needy persons. And also very important or beneficial to praise others' good quality. We have to rejoice or appreciate the others' good qualities. And then the need to practice patience or tolerance and other positive mind. And in this way, we have to make consistent effort until we achieve our spiritual goals. So during in the process of our perseverance or the spiritual journey with a lot of the effort, there are certain advices given us by those great masters, even regarding the time of sleep during the night. They advise us by saying that do not sleep in the first part or the last part of the night. Endeavor in your practice. Then it continues to say that strive in methods for developing within yourself those positive qualities of the six perfections and the like that have not already arisen, and to methods for causing those positive qualities that have already arisen to flourish ever more and more. As Padava said, for example, just as moisture subsumes and produces all things, similarly, all phenomena that act as the causes of enlightenment are subsumed in and produced by six transcendent perfections. being devout with the all qualities. One is to practice 6 transcendent perfections.
와야 디인디다 맞아 남주 티고신 볼라미네 자 팅메라미네 샤쇼소들라 때네 람 냠수 렌당 송교 디나네 샤쇼소들게 대생이바데 양다 봉어시 세조로 디숨유스레 랑게 줄라 바치주게 냠는게 추마지버 지버치야 지선바데 권내 공도 배워치야데 양다 봉어나라 레디고 다디 대생이바.
So this, when it says that we should try to engage in the methods causing those positive qualities that have already arisen to flourish ever more and more. This is related with the practice of 37 limbs of the enlightenment. And so when we talk about the Bodhisattva's qualities, they are 37 limbs of the enlightenment, 4 correct abandonments. So in the 4 correct abandonments, we are advised to increase what we have cultivated positively and try to reduce those negative the qualities.
와야 다파지 좀 마지와 지와 지지 공내 공도 펴 제거의 준세 가르서는 산제의 주 탐제 산제 톱제의 주 티는 마되어 요 말이스. 되게 지어서 파지 주냐면 전에 산제의 연대 탐제 제거 지어서 배나 가르서는 기시보도에 먼저 렌스야지 추세죠로 추기 사원 두저주 사원의 롬바스 중에도 수요전에 되게다 제와시 현지시 연대 더 추샤도 여러 추면은 그 사원적으로 연애야 계속요 말고 대인들도 산지의 주탐제야 산지의 연대 탐제 제와시 주 탐제 다 파지 주는 마되어요 말이스 거래.
It says that developing within yourself those positive qualities of the 6 perfections. So to practice the 6th perfection is become extremely important, because in this practice of the 6 perfections, it includes all the spiritual practices which act as the cause of the enlightenment. So here it uses the example of moisture. So if a seed under the ground meet with a moisture, it subtends and it act as kind of the favorable condition to seed grow up. Similarly, if we practice 6 perfections in which it include all the Bodhisattva's practices or all other causes of the spiritual enlightenment, that's why we need to focus more on practicing the 6 perfections.
대인들 산지의 주담제 다 산지 도지의 주담제 파지 주는 뒤당 가래서는 다들 소남기 소의 이식소 고이자오래 소남조의 이식소 마연배 산지 구방 주역 주요 말과 다 대인들 파지 주대 진반내 어다 진반내 진바 주주 수와 3대 대래 소남기 소는 용기하래 시랍대 이식소는 용기하래 다 준주대 소남기 소의 이식소 이게 자샤기요 대인들다 가다 파지 주나로라 소남기 소의 이식소 쭉 찾아오지 되되다 이식소다.
If we engage in the practice of 6 perfection correctly and properly, so this method is become a correct and complete process or course of the spiritual attainment. So this will never ruin us, spoil us, our effort. Because in the practice of 6 perfection, it includes both the 2 different forms of the accumulations, merits and the wisdom. Starting from the practice of generosity up to the 4th, meditative concentration, by engaging in them, we can accumulate the merit, the positive spiritual force. And then the perfection of wisdom is associated with the wisdom or the understanding, realization. And then perseverance, perfection of effort or perseverance, enthusiastic effort. This brings both merit and the wisdom.
다디 파시 중에 나네 나바디 3대로 3대라다 남주 순단시는 소나무 소나라 타지도 시작이도 내지는 이게 자유가지 고기도로 삼대라 배는 장반인지 저거 건배기 삼대에다 전음소 자루요래 다 동의 건배 삼대에는 이시소시네 삼대를 찬이시하게 서서는 주주를 찬이시가 나시 삼대를 찬이.
So the fifth of the sixth perfection, that is the meditative concentration, perfection of the meditative concentration. So normally this is explained as only associated with the merit. But in my understanding or opinion, by engaging in the meditative concentration, we can earn or we can produce both the wisdom and the merit. Because if there is a meditative concentration which reflects or contemplate on love and compassion, this will accumulate merits. If a certain form of the concentration the focuses on the emptiness, this can develop our realizations or the wisdom.
와야 나디 이제게 바지 가서 수림 입어들이 개와치되기 수림제 다 섬제 된지가 수림니 무슨 균에 숨진지 되는 코너 줘봐 현대지라니 민년 버저비 치도 고숨게 쥐얼람 고숨게 뒤지 마봉 마타고 뻥시 다버숨 땡 괴베 뇌지 총주 소 무구를 지와 뻥신 조주사 예수 줄람 단지 준바당스 나게 뭐 먹보다 뭐 넘버를 뻥신 대화다 전부 내대 신준보다 이 인구르다 이 목소라서 미자제 대화다 인지소 제시다 냄베 내보고사.
And then third one is the ethical discipline of benefiting the sentient beings. Simjin Tenjig Trim, benefiting the sentient beings. So this kind of the ethical discipline encourages us to engage more in those activities which benefit other sentient beings. So it is explained in the text by saying whether it is accomplished through direct or indirect means. This is to engage in practices that exclusively bring benefit to beings, so that you are able to inspire faith in others and keep your own self from declining. You ought to refrain from any impure activities of the three doors and adhere to the threefold purity of body, speech, and mind. Having abundant, unruly physical behavior like jumping and running, when you walk, enter, eat, sleep, and so on, be disciplined in all your physical activities. In speech, give up excessive talking and using sharp language, and one is to abide in a serene and gentle state with a pleasant expression. As for your mind, do not let it be attached to gain, honor, sleep, dullness, and the like. Mindfully abide in faith, compassion, and other virtues.
와야 다디 이제게 주림 당문이 되게 수수랑게 된다 주변이 제다 그렇죠 수수랑게 결론 송지 된다 주변다 이바데 순바데다 섬전라 무엇을 저와치고도 갈라 무엇을 저와치고도 주연의 저와치가 갑라 신 대화 요바치야지 신 대화 기지야지다 결론된 거야지.
So these three different ethical disciplines, the first two are related with one's own benefit. So we are trying to avoid engaging in non-virtuous activities or the negative actions. And third one is to benefit other sentient beings. So to benefit other sentient beings, we have to be very alert and vigilant regarding one's own behavior. If we act in a more constructive and attractive manner, this will encourage others to do so. And also this can bring kind of trust in you by others.
아야 대인도 다저데 고스무기 자와데 녜베리 빵 상보리 땡고를 송으로 고스무기 자주 녜바데 가르서는 다 뢰기 졸랑 녜바데 말아서는 신신 몇부고 당시전에 다 여러 총자자야 소리다 뢰기 졸랑 지 여러 오 녜바데 방야당 근데 조샤니 되갑려야 제갑라 조당당 세베갑라 살루 당한저 살루 조당 지여로 그래서 숨부지고요 다 야보지 신람상고랑 조와라 되는 신 마테버지야 칼라사당라 되는 신 마테버지야 되게지 방구를 했습니다.
So this also advises us. So, but you have to know this kind of advices are very much related with certain backgrounds, the cultural backgrounds. So this advice is given based on Tibetan culture. So you have to know the the background also to understand fully well this piece of the advices. It says this having abundant unruly physical behavior like jumping, running, when you work, enter, eat, sleep, and so on. So jumping like a naughty boy is not allowed, or it is said not good, and it's also running. But this is very much related with the cultural, the inclinations or the cultural background. And when you work, enter, eat, and sleep. So this is also rest on the cultural background.
아야 다 대체 다 줄게 줄럼 다 나게 줄럼데 팅 자외는 색세고 요래 계제만 뭐 마시에 송 요래 되네 시에 qab라이나 바로 법에 셀로 보야기 직접적으로 마시에 송 요래.
And physically, we are advised not to jump and run and sleep too much or the untimely sleep, eating too much, and so on are advised with regard to our physical behavior. And then in speech, we are advised to avoid engaging in excessive talk, especially gossips or the idle chatting, nonsense, meaningless talk.
다 대체 되네 계제 시에 qab라 가르고라나 jambo 저 대보 어디네 시에 qab라 르게 남주데 줌바 어디 대체네 르게 남주 줌당 되면 토네 계제 바로 볼라 저기 셈나로라 바보 용야다 암주 니뭐 유디니 계제 시에 그랬어 다디 냠낸 치야 돼.
And when we communicate with others, we should not use sharp language or the harsh language which harm others or the listeners. And instead, we have to use some very respectful, polite words with the good smiling expressions or the good facial expressions, and with gentle physical gestures and so forth.
다디 롱아기 줄럼 상보당 냠바 방주당 상보된주시 다디네 이기 줄랑 냠바 방주당 상보된주데 이기 줄랑 냠바데 가래 닝고라차 다시야라야 줄람 상보 도는 계지 셰샤바 디기 삼로 보라 다군중알야 닝고 자그레 삼벽이 삼로데 다방고 요래 다 쳔바당 대바당 닝지기 도는 내고그레스.
So third one is how should we behave mentally? Physically, we are advised not to jump, run, and eat in the limitless or with the more desire and cravings and so forth. And in speech, we have to use the fine and the gentle words with the good expression. Even if we did so physically and verbally, but what is deep inside our mind? What is the motivation of those good superficial activities? If we spoke nicely and gently with others, if that kind of the speech is induced by a kind of the negative intention, the motivation to gain benefit for oneself, to increase one's social status, the reputations and so forth, then it is said really the negative and the bad. Instead, our minds should be conjoined with the compassion, trust in Buddha, and the other positive qualities of our mind.
아야 데데다 대가게 나기니 상보 랍샤 대야다 네베기 람자 도야도서 페시데 시정 제라 시정 통용으로 시정 나로라 나기 니바 나기 기와 땡주당 니바 봉주데 시정 저저데 야부죠래.
So regarding this behavior of our three doors, we will see after completing this text. So after completing this text, we will begin to study Nagarjuna's letter to his friend. So in this text, the Nagarjuna has explained comprehensively in detail about the behavior or contact of our body, speech, and mind.
와야 데데다 단드린 수름 숨바데 수르다 섬제 랑라마 냠도 효션에 용거여 인데 롱아기 졸람 롱아 이숨기 졸람 데다 야고지 매외나 스제신 마테가 저거 집에나 다 가상은서 디보심버에도 장주스버지 유디 제네 바로부 대화저고 로보당 공주저고 사와당 드리시는 할 레벨에 네버도 좀 싸고요 데인데 sabse 소소문에 sabse 지구야 바로불
So this third ethical discipline is actually related with the spending time with the others in the society. Bodhisattva need to actually come inside the society. We need to stay with the other people, sentient beings, to help them. So just to stay in cave and in a retreat will not satisfy this kind of third level ethical discipline. So when the Bodhisattva actually approach or stays with other human beings in different societies, so his physical and the verbal behavior should be very attractive and nice. Otherwise, the people will not trust or not believe him or her. So that's why, in order to engage in the third ethical discipline, the first two are also become very important.
아야 대인류가라 다 자주선바세도 수수하고로 수수 자주선바이 뭐 하고도 다 시네 심지 제려야 니모마세 흉수수 자고 서마도 빈 파주안에 자주선바이 뭐 하고 말어 하마고도 군jo 고대적으로 세우는 뺏사래 대인류 준조게 생각 요반의 인생에 개발동도 사와이 공주지게 좀버지 세야되다 개발동도 사야돼 유대 자주선바지 차대요 나라속에 자주선바 유리체네 다 니바 디고 가서다 개화들이 좀 중요하고 수수원에 자주선바 수수원에 개는 거에도 뺏게 좀 버리자.
So when Bodhisattvas comes and goes or stay with the other people in society, so from the Bodhisattva's side, it is he or she should be very careful not to bring any negative image or not to make any negative image in the eyes of the people. So because whether someone is Bodhisattva or not is hidden. Oneself knows who one is. So whether someone is Bodhisattva or not, we can't judge, we can't say. So that's why from the Bodhisattvas themselves, they need to be very careful when they comes in the societies with other people or to help other sentient beings.
Oh yeah,
any question? Yes, Anila. The question is regarding the individual liberation vow and Bodhisattva's vow. So as her the knowledge, she said that individual liberation vow, once one took the individual liberation vow, one dies, if one dies or passed away, depart from this world. At the time when he departs from this world, the individual liberation vow is also going to cease or to lose. Is that true? Whereas in the case of Bodhisattva vow, even one dies, the vow itself still continues to take other good qualities in the future.
소소대에 돈바세데 롱아기 돈바차되어래 르던가기 다 르던가세데 시그로요로 텔라데메 돈바데 시그로야지 시그요래 자 예스메 돈바데 쌤르바 샘딩강 유디베게 돈바차되고라 다디 시외 계제 말고 균주요로 남시 균주요로 디제게 샤네 네바데 포주고 주요래 디제게 샤네 겨와주요 롱아이게 돈바다 롱아 예수메 돈바스
So that is the true, because the individual liberation vows, the basis of the individual liberation vow is become the form, the physical, body and speech. So once we die, our body and speech will disappear. So if the basis is disappear, then what depends on it also going to cease or disappear. Whereas in the Bodhisattva's case, Bodhisattva's vow depends on the mental continuum. Even if we die or after the death, the continuation of our mind still continuously travels. So Bodhisattva's vow, some kind of the strong elements of the Bodhisattva's vow still continues with our very subtle mind. So is there any hope to gain a better life, better rebirth after death due to the force of Bodhisattva's vow? Chajusimbe Dombadi mi Shitawi Nele go Haidera. Dildin Mongba Joya Bulea Kiwayanas.
Today you go today you know. Chida Manzo Soda Domba Yabusum and Jolene Yaburba. Did Yabusuna the Jolene Machigo.
So if we observe or uphold Bodhisattva's vow, not only Bodhisattva's vow, by observing the ethical individual liberation vow, also make positive difference in the future rebirth. Because if we did something good, even if itself is ceased, but it creates some kind of the positive imprints or disposition, kind of the latency, which of course affect our future result. Kongri Rave Goe Shimanzo Pendang Dewa Mali Jungwe Shenre Song Dinzin Gyado Yi Shabe Sidi Pardo Dinyu Je Chanju Simjo Rembo Je Magi Panam Geba Nyamba Meba Yang Kongne Gongdu Pewa Sho.
position like I am too good to manage the things like that. This is not my job. You know, this attitude.
Then he or she will never
Yeah, with food interactions, it's
저랑
just
약보
also with the
룩거래.
resorts, like you know,
야.
they are in the hotels. They are really
저,
like talking to the people as a
저랑 약보 룩거래.
this is your job to do. So sir,
저랑
sir,
약보
do.
당분
So
레버디
that's
약보에는
like,
저랑 약보 치도라. 레버디 약보에는 저랑 약보 치도만. 저랑 the way to practice. 저랑 is the way of conducting oneself.
I understand what you mean, but it's like something
저가 약보,
somebody
저가
says
상고,
like,
저가
you should
예뻐.
serve to also to me. Then I'm like, okay, when I hear these people like how they are expecting to serve, you know, and they are
바랍니다. perfection, 상식.
they're like this way, you know, then you are like, I don't want to serve to
Is
you.
this the one you bought?
This
뭐는 얘기를?
Ale, yeah, you got.
This one is shiny right now.
Ale, good.
저기도 이 여자가 되는 거.
It's shiny.
Yeah, but it's because of the Buddha.
Yeah, because of the.
No, it must be somebody cleaner or what.
No.
It's been a while ago, right? It's been a while ago.
Like what?
It's been a while ago,
right?
We were not talking both. I don't hear any of you.
Shiny 오천천 레벨. 유치지. 오천천 shiny 짱.
Ale, kira kari sungyo.
The plan the unit love this beautiful chamber. 근데
And you bought it some time ago.
Yeah.
갔다.
How many months?
You know, it's like
Almost.
I don't know, 3-4 months ago.
Yeah, more than
It looks like you just bought it. It's shiny, clean, complete clean. 아니라 베스라 카타테 쉔쉔루 shiny
shiny.
카타 쉔쉔루
Kata jilda diseguro.
카타 shiny
Kata wet chimchi do.
쉔쉔루
Wet young do.
but the tag la 쉔쉔 but
Wet chim. Wet chim like this. Wet chim like the.
카게 쉔쉔 but 얘는 티 the 직선은 쉔쉔
And then
아우차 네고시에 맞쉔 카게 라 쉔쉔
chim. Ingiri.
쉔쉔
Wet chimchi. Wet chimchi do.
쉔쉔 쉔쉔
Chimchi kira di kakela tayo man. Tante intimate ikelta.
쉔쉔
chimchi intimate ikelta. Kiko. 가서 너도 kak에 가시 다 타고 말아. 이게 intimate.
아니 the sunshine is
뉴메 완나로 왜 타? 뉴메
예다다는데 거기도
완나로 왜 타? 카테 센터시. 완나로 왜 타? 왜 침침이 도?
다른 예다다는데 거기도
뒤도. 왜 침치도? 왜 침치? 침침도. 마음이 좀 쓰는 거. 그냥 아우차크 치는 치소서. 이게나 침치래도 아우차크 치는.
쉔쉔
그 스펠링 다 가지고.
아우차 네고시에 맞쉔 쉔쉔
아우차는 침. 알레 아우차는 침. 아니라 마비 다 떼고. 아니 왜 침침도? 마도아. 아니 마다 떼고. 제가 낙하는 마트인데 왜 침침을 하니? 왜 침침이 마다 떼고. 왜 침도? 왜 침침이 됐어? 시간 정말 왜 침침이 됐어?
아하 캐리도 빠레레레
Oh, I didn't put it there. No, definitely not.
왜 침침도?
Oh, you've been putting in every once in a while?
Yeah, actually.
Your face is shiny.
Oh,
점점 되게